Right, we're ready. Starting. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this extraordinary meeting of Middlesbrough Council. Got one or two things to read out before we actually start the meeting as a meeting. Please, can I ask members to leave via the main door when they're leaving tonight? Outside by the reception. There's an event taking place in the courtyard, so if you all would go out that way instead of going out the back, would appreciate it. Right, members of the public, this is a business meeting of the council, and whilst members of the public are allowed and welcome to attend, listen to the debate, they're not allowed to call out or disrupt the meeting. If any member of the public interrupts the meeting, they will be issued with a warning. If they proceed to interrupt the meeting, they will be asked to leave. The external audit report has already been the subject of debate at the Corporate Affairs and Audit Committee. As identified during the Corporate Affairs and Audit Committee meetings, there are going to be investigations ongoing and complaints that cannot be discussed at this stage. So please can members avoid all personal attacks or making any assumptions on the outcome of those investigations and complaints. Right, we'll start the meeting. Apologies for absence.
Thanks, Chair. We have apologies from Councillors Lewis, Platt, Sands and Gascoigne.
Councillor Davidson. Right, do we have any declarations of interest? Nobody? Right. Okay. Right, this is a request from an extraordinary council meeting to discuss the external audit report produced by Ernst & Young regarding Middlesbrough Council, in which the council's accounts are qualified. I'll invite Councillor Story to outline the reasons for him asking for this extraordinary council meeting. Councillor Story.
Thanks, Chair. We've called this meeting because we believe that councillors needed an opportunity in a public forum to debate and discuss the recent external audit report into Middlesbrough Borough Council. The report was scathing and damning, and it was an indictment of the way the council has been run since May 2019. It's important for local people that the judgment handed down by the external auditors is reported correctly and factually, and I intend to set out exactly what the report is, what it certainly is not, and why it matters. The audit report matters because it is unprecedented. Let's be absolutely clear about this. Middlesbrough Borough Council has never, not since its inception after local government reorganisation in 1996, been in anything like a crisis of this magnitude. Not under previous council leaders, not under previous mayors, both Labour and Independent. The external audit report specifically highlights examples of major governance failings, and every example that they quote flows directly from or has direct reference to the Mayor's office. Unlawful payments to a mayoral assistant, the farcical Boho-X waste and governance failings, and the purchase of antibody tests which were unusable. You cannot blame previous councils for those failures. The auditors also highlight issues with members' declarations of interest, issues which have been raised multiple times in relation to the Mayor, and the Mayor has even been asked to leave meetings when these issues have presented themselves. All these examples, every specific example in the independent audit judgment, flows directly from or has direct reference to the Mayor's office, nowhere else. One of the main failures the audit highlights is not having proper arrangements in place to ensure that the council took properly informed decisions and deployed resources to achieve planned and sustainable outcomes for taxpayers and local people. That is not a function of backbench members, that is exclusively the function of the executive and the Mayor. Let's take each of the specific examples quoted in the report in turn. On the antibody tests, the Mayor received expert opinion from the Director of Public Health, and it was ignored. He was told that the tests would not work and that it could be embarrassing to the council. But the Mayor has no respect for those who have experience and qualifications in these critical areas. We know on Boho-X from the audit that the Mayor was responsible for breaching council procedures, overreaching and changing the plans for Boho-X. He also signalled his refusal to change since then, never once accepting he did anything wrong, deflecting blame to officers, and never once apologising or taking responsibility. He is not capable of change. That's how he does business. But that refusal to accept any error whatsoever has cost taxpayers to the tune of £600,000 and much more on other projects. The mayoral assistant to the council, in terms of the mayoral assistant, the council acted unlawfully, employing someone.
Councillor, can I just stop you for a moment? We need to remind you that these accusations that are coming out now are still to be, what did you say, examined?
To be determined by a standards committee hearing, which would hear any matters of conduct. So,
okay, I'll move on to. I'll move on. It's also important to explain what this report does not say. This is not about previous years. There is no reference to previous years or previous audits. We still currently have no annual governance statement signed off due to the view of senior officers that the council is unable to deliver change and resolve the huge issues presented by the leadership of the council. The chief executive has had to request intervention from central government. Just let that sink in. The chief executive has asked central government to intervene at our council. This has never happened before. How bad must the situation be for that to be necessary? This is not also about standards complaints or wasted money on standards. There is no reference in the report to that at all, and it is misleading in the extreme for the Mayor to try and suggest that this is the key issue here when it is nothing of the sort. There has been no contrition, no apology for huge waste of taxpayers' money at any stage, no acceptance of responsibility. The buck stops with the Mayor, as it would have done under Dave Budd or Ray Mallon. Nothing on this scale ever occurred on their watch. Well-informed residents and people who care about the council working effectively for local people are regularly in touch with me to inform me of something they think is inappropriate and requires investigation and discussion, and we have done so. The Labour Group delivered a comprehensive dossier of information to the auditors, as well as central government and local press, detailing all the major failings, some of which are highlighted in this audit, others of which will certainly be in future audits. We know how hard it has been for officers to work in this environment for the last 3 years, with a toxic and broken culture. It must have been unbearable at times, but we do need to acknowledge that resolving these issues means facing hard truths about how officers and elected members work best together and in a spirit of mutual respect and honesty. We in the Labour Group want to work with officers and elected colleagues across the political divide to deliver solutions and to ensure that these existential threats to Middlesbrough Council never present themselves again. We know the importance of having a council that functions, that works for local people and delivers value for money. We need a council led by someone who abides by the highest possible standards in public life and who can do so without making tough choices and with respect for officers and proper procedures and the code of conduct. We saw the entire executive resign en masse because they could see from the inside that the Mayor was not fit to lead the council. I do not believe that only Labour members think the Mayor must take responsibility for this damning verdict on his tenure. We on this side do not have a monopoly on what is right. This isn't about party political allegiances. This is about right and wrong. I trust all of us to know the difference. I'm calling on all members to be brave, to step up and take the chance to speak out and agree that any solution to these systemic issues cannot be delivered by the man responsible. The council needs a fresh start, and that can only happen if the Mayor is not part of the equation. He broke Middlesbrough Council, he cannot be the man to fix it. And I call on colleagues across this chamber to do what is right and make that stand with me and my colleagues.
Thank you, Councillor. It's only right that the Mayor should have the right to respond.
Okay.
Yeah, just no personal attacks.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Obviously, that was a very strong statement. I think it's really important tonight that everybody is honest about good things and bad things. It's absolutely essential that our facts are right. Matthew, if I can call him Matthew, Councillor Story, there were several really incorrect things that are misleading your colleagues. They're misleading the people here. And sadly, due to the fact it's broadcast live and on catch-up, you're misleading thousands of people in the public. Let's discuss that tomorrow. I would urge you to always, especially over important things, tell the truth. Let's talk about the governance report, the value for money report, and let's think about the context, the political context first. I see some people shaking their heads, and they're welcome to do that, but I'm going to tell the truth here. Okay, so the context is real progress. The context is political revolution, and the context is some unhappy politicians. Think of the things that have been achieved despite COVID, despite the fact we've got financial challenges, despite the fact there are all kinds of problems. Think of some of the progress that we have got here. In the last 4 months, Middlesbrough, little old Middlesbrough, was identified by the FT and the partners as the third best small city in the whole of Europe for investment. Middlesbrough has just been identified by the Office of National Statistics as the most enterprising place in the northeast of England. Head and shoulders above Newcastle, Gateshead, Sunderland, Stockton, Darlington, Hartlepool, and everywhere else. For the first time in a generation, we are rebuilding Middlesbrough. In the centre of town, we're building social housing, new housing, family housing. The first time in a generation. We are leading the way. Every single council in the country is panicking about the high street's demise and is scurrying trying to find solutions. Well, our answer to it is already underway. We are leading the way. We are rebuilding Middlesbrough, Captain Cook Square and other places as a leisure and entertainment destination. A place that used to destroy its heritage, we are the champions of heritage. Look at our beautiful Exchange Square. The makeover there has been saluted and cherished by the public. People from all over the region love it. At the same time, we've got buildings being restored and brought back to life. There is a new cherishing of our heritage. And what's going on in our heritage zone around Exchange Square is breathtaking and of regional significance. Middlesbrough is even stronger as an educational powerhouse, and I don't use that word lightly. We are an educational powerhouse. Now, I don't take any credit for what the uni do, but they are growing and booming and thriving, and the numbers of foreign students that are coming is exploding. And every foreign student that comes rents rooms, eats out, and supports our economy. It's incredible news, but it's not just about the uni. Middlesbrough College is leading the way. Middlesbrough College is fighting digital poverty, leading the way nationally, where all students get a laptop. They're growing and getting stronger and bringing people into Middlesbrough. Northern School of Art. We nearly lost that, you know. You know, the Northern School of Art was on the cusp of going to Stockton, getting nicked by Stockton Council at the last minute. And with intervention, we managed to retain Northern School of Art. The only art FE college in the north, pretty much. Community centres. We've tried really hard to stop being a council that closes them. I know why they were closed, because money was tight. But we're building new ones. We've got plans and money in place to build a new community centre in Nunthorpe and a new community centre, a new Southland centre in East Middlesbrough. That's pretty rare in the northeast, probably in the whole country. Great things are happening here. We are building new play parks, refurbishing old ones, £1 million just on play parks across the town. Setting standards that others in our region and probably nationally want to follow. Incredible things are going on. Now, despite all that staggering positivity, despite all that truth, for some politicians, that inconvenient truth, there's a problem. And the auditors came in and they've highlighted it. The auditors have said that our governance, our procedures, some of our policies are bad. Not just bad, but really bad. They have said that it isn't just a new problem. They have said that issues actually have existed for a number of years, but they have categorically said that things have worsened. And we have to accept that. We have to take it on the chin. Now, just as everybody in this room has played some kind of role in making all those positive things happen, everybody in this room has played something of a role, or can do, in turning around the governance situation. It's really clear that we have the power to put this right. The member-to-member relationships, the FOI requests, the complaints, the harassing of people on social media, the bullying, the intimidation, the lies, the threats. It's really got to stop. And I'm not pointing the finger at anyone here. I'm saying we, every single person in this room, has the ability to influence that. And when it comes to blame, I'm definitely not going to blame anyone here. In fact, I'm willing to take some blame. But what I'm also stressing here is that we all have a responsibility and a duty to look honestly at what the auditors have said. And many of us are at fault, and many of us need to work harder, and together we can turn this around. So let's be positive, let's champion the genuinely incredible things happening that none of us would have predicted 4 years ago. Let's salute that instead of nagging and niggling. Let's get together, let's work together, and we can all turn this around. To tell everybody in this room now, the general public are not very interested in back and forth on anything, let alone detailed governance matters. This isn't me shirking responsibility. I'll accept that I should do some things better, categorically. And we all need to improve, and we all need to work better, and we all need to be positive, and we all need to put the town ahead of politics. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do you have any questions from anybody? Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sure members across the chamber were as shocked and saddened as members of the Labour group were when learning of the Ernst & Young findings in their audit report. As someone who represents one of the most deprived wards in the country, I share the anger of residents at the waste of council taxpayers' money. Like many other wards in the town, more and more people are relying on food banks and eco-shops to feed themselves and their families. The massive fuel increase and food prices are clearly adding to levels of poverty, particularly affecting our children. Despite this desperate situation, the Mayor's seen fit to fritter away hundreds of thousands of pounds on an aborted Boho X project, unusable COVID testing kits, and £32,000 engaging a PR advisor with no defined role. In my ward, footpaths are crumbling, grassed edges are turned into mud baths, speed humps are disintegrating. When I reported these, I was told that a temporary job is the best I can hope for until funds are available. I'm now told that things are in such a bad state that even a temporary repair wouldn't be possible, and we will have to wait for a rolling programme that never seems to start rolling. Over the past 12 months, I've been supporting a woman called Laura, who is doing a fantastic job running a boxing club for young people. The club is based in Thorntree, in a council building that, due to lack of maintenance, has a roof that leaks. Part of the building is unusable due to water damage and electrics, and toilets they're not fit to use. I am embarrassed and ashamed that we have been unable to provide the necessary repairs to support the fantastic work that Laura is doing for our young people. I'm sure that other members will all have similar stories to tell. The Mayor needs to get his priorities right, something he has completely failed to do so far. Thank you, Chair.
Go on, yeah.
I think definitely I would like to speak, but I'd like to say something as well. I know Laura Sargent well.
My understanding is that everyone has one opportunity to speak, and the Mayor's had an opportunity to speak.
Okay, all right.
Okay, I think we
Yeah. Yeah? No? Okay. Okay, next person with a hand up was Councillor Hobson, I think, and then I've forgotten your name. Councillor Smiles. It's the excitement of the evening, it's got to me.
Thank you. I don't know if it's on, yes. I object to Councillor Story saying that I left the executive because I didn't more or less have any confidence in the Mayor. That was not true. The Mayor had made some decisions I wasn't happy with. I did not want to be involved anymore in the executive because of those decisions he made. However, the Mayor has made lots of good decisions. We can see progress in the town, and I think the last Mayor, I didn't see any progress in the town. I'm sorry, I didn't see any progress at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Smiles.
So I'm just wanting to come back on something that Councillor Story said. These issues aren't entirely new. They've been referred to in previous reports. They've been referred to by EY in this chamber, saying that they date back prior to this administration, and the accounts have been qualified before. What I'd also say that things are very serious. Things have gotten worse. And I think it's really incumbent now on all of us to accept some responsibility, be grown-ups, and really help toward the improvement journey that we're hopefully going to go on from this point. What I would like to ask Councillor Story is, are Matthew going to be part of that? Is Labour going to be part of that? Are Labour going to stop the finger pointing, stop the blaming? Residents don't want to see it. They want councillors to concentrate on the matters that really are important to them. Potholes, antisocial behaviour, green spaces, parks. They're the things that residents want. They don't want this back and forth of petty sniping in this chamber.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McTeague.
Is this automatically switched on?
It's on.
Thank you. With regard to something Councillor Story said, I've been here longer than Councillor Story, and I have a reasonably good memory. When Ray Mallon was here, he appointed a man who had his own business, consultancy business. The man was called Ian Cross, I believe. And he was paid out of pocket money to assist Ray Mallon. Not one member of the Labour Party objected to it, and the Labour Mayor didn't object to it. Yet now we're objecting to a similar thing because it's a different Mayor and a different council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor?
Thank you, Chair. It's good to have this opportunity to speak tonight. Like it or not, this is my statement. The audit report was not really a shock, if I was really honest. Many of us would like to give a lot of ideas and thoughts on what was said in that report. This is mine. I, like many, was elected yet again to represent my ward in the hope that I could put forward my residents' concerns and needs above my own to this council. I was on certain panels and committees and still am, which looked after the whole of Middlesbrough, therefore including my residents, of which I'm proud of as well. Since 2019, this has been made very difficult due to the toxic atmosphere in the council at meetings and full council. A lot of new, inexperienced, not their fault, inexperienced councillors were elected and stated as independents. This, we quickly discovered, meant that they were intent on disparaging the past administrations, as is happening this evening, and those connected with it, including existing councillors. The very fabric of democracy is being shredded here in Middlesbrough, and some carry on blindly believing everything the Mayor and his executive say without challenge, and are encouraged to be disparaging to those who do wish to hold them to account as jealous individuals, and that is not the case. The new leader, Mayor of Middlesbrough, was also very inexperienced in political matters, as was patently obvious by his attitude and divisive manner and methods. He actively encouraged division and mistrust of anything a section of the council may have done or want to do. We were promised transparency at the beginning, and as set out in the report, many of the deals we know now have taken place in casual meetings whereby no minutes were taken, and many things unknown to the rest of the council were promised and acted upon, therefore costing a lot of public money, which has been wasted. Still no apology for that. Procedures were seen as an obstacle to the new administration, blame and responsibility often falling onto the officers. When eventually these come to light, the mayor is quick to blame others, and that is usually officers. We know that there are a lot of things happening behind the scenes which we are not privy to, and that alone causes an air of mistrust. We now have a council which is not totally representative of the electorate. The term independent is nonsensical here in Middlesbrough Council. Say maybe for one real independent, whose name will remain undisclosed. Many of the new councillors were elected as chairs, etc., committees very, very quickly, and panels without proper training and understanding of meetings even. And that was very obvious during meetings and afterwards. Many felt it was not necessary to do the training. That has happily been taken care of now, but their inexperience caused many problems. The mayor is reliant on a small band of followers who almost always appear never really challenge anything that is put forward. It is worrying, and the facts speak for themselves. He is very reliant on one of his executive who has taken on many different responsibilities during almost 4-year tenure, sometimes being the only executive, and who has never been seen or heard to challenge any of the decisions made. We asked for reports from executive members to see what they were in fact doing within their different roles and responsibilities. We were eventually told this would happen no more. The mayor does not feel this is necessary. I see that next week we are actually getting some executive reports. That should be interesting. I will now finish, as I need others to have the opportunity to put forward their feelings and observations over the past few years since 2019. I sincerely hope there will be a big change in the administration of this council in the near future, whereby everyone is given a fair chance, not just the select few. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Morstan.
Thank you, Chair. There's nothing political about this business state we're in now. It's personalities. It's a toxic behaviour that started with the campaign in 2019, and we're suffering from that now. The mayor and everyone here, the thing that came out of the audit was that we had to work together. The way I've been hearing things, seeing things, I don't think there's any chance. I want it to happen. I want everyone to work together. And what I'd like here is a commitment from everybody, from the mayor downwards, that we will work together for the benefit of Middlesbrough. Not our political ambitions, but the benefit of Middlesbrough, to keep it out of the hole that we're heading into. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Anybody else? Stefan, Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Chair. It's important to acknowledge that there is definitely something unique about this audit report, because there has been qualifications in the past, but the threat of intervention has never been there. And I think that's important to acknowledge at first. The actual audit qualification itself, it's kind of got two components. The first component is probably the most important one. That is the 3 specific examples of governance failures. And I have tried my best in my role to, because I've only been appointed recently, I've tried my best to go back and find out, well, how has that come about? You know, how have these 3 examples come about? And I think to some degree that there is a narrative for some of them to say, well, you know, like there was a unique time period with COVID, for example, with Bohex, where you could argue that scheme of that building had to change. You can argue there's officer failings as well in that process because officers sanctioned that meeting. The point is, any narrative to provide justification doesn't matter because it doesn't change the outcome. The outcome is that there has been a failure, and that's what we now need to look at. I've then tried to understand, okay, well, those 3 examples have come about. How have they come about? And I think some of it is the change from the last elections in May 2019. You had a different approach from David Budd, the mayor, and Andy Preston. And I feel speaking to officers, looking at backup reports, getting an idea of like what the issue is. Part of the issue I feel like is And the experience of a lot of members in this room is not public sector, it's private sector. We don't always, and I think the point made about new councillors has some validation, because as a new councillor, you get elected, you want to get things done. I've got a park in Coburn Newham that was meant to be getting built back in July, June, and nothing has been done. There's been some progress behind the scenes, but not really. I think the frustration that we all do feel in this room is things that are supposed to be getting done aren't, and it does take time, and there's valid reasons for that. There's valid reasons why that is, but I feel that part of the distrust, and that's the second component of the audit report, is the distrust. Part of that comes from the approach by the mayor and many members where we want to get things done, and we're frustrated. So I think we've got an opportunity now. We're currently going through a diagnostic process with SIPVA to see what the issues are. I've got an idea what I think, but I could be very wrong. We've got the opportunity to actually focus on going now on an improvement plan. We've done it with children's services, you know. I know it's cats and dogs, it's different things, but I believe that we have the opportunity to improve. The second element of the report about distrust, I will say, I have been in the Labour camp, I've been in the independent camp. There is, unfortunately, in both camps, some people where if you're not in their camp, you're a bad person. And if you're not in this camp, you're a bad person. And that's my experience. I've got people who are considered to be friends who now don't even look at me when I walk past them. There is distrust among members, and there is distrust, unfortunately, my experience with officers and members. We can repair that, but I think we need to just try to stop a little bit, and I suppose just actually have an open mind that we're all in this to make the town better. And remember, that's what we got elected for. Politics is very transient. We could all be gone in next year. That's what we need to focus on, making the town better. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Cook.
Thank you. So one of the things I would like to sort of talk about is respect for the residents, and it's a sort of a wide arching point really. One of my big concerns is that we don't actually listen to the residents enough. It may be all well and good, and my ward often gets bandied about as somehow the oasis that's going to fix everything. But the building project that we've currently got on there only has 1 layer of bricks. It also doesn't fix the incredible state of dilapidation in the Cannon Park estate. It doesn't fix the massive ASB problems in the Cannon Park estate. That is currently managed by 13, which isn't seeing zero improvement, as are many 13 estates, while we hand them more stuff. If we listen to the residents, then actually they would say, before we start building projects and them seeing over the road from them 13 investing the way they are, they would like to see their own premises fixed. They would like to see their own roof not leak. They would like to see their own place not become a war zone. I think it's also important that actually we respect what residents do when they vote. As an example, I'm just going to pick someone out. Councillor Mawson, example, I respect the fact that residents voted for Councillor Mawson, and in turn respect Councillor Mawson. That is politics, and I think that's something that we all have to sort of understand a bit. And as a new councillor, it's probably a bit different for me. But ultimately, when residents see money waste, or when residents see the fact that they're not being listened to and new projects being started when their state of life isn't improving, we need to address that. I also think that in the same token that I've just spoke about, we as elected representatives need to be heard. So when we talk about cross-party working, I've yet to see it. We often say, oh, well, this is what we need to do. Never been invited to that meeting yet. So I think if we're honest about that, and we are going to do that, then actually let's do it, rather than talk about it endlessly and never actually achieve it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Anybody else got their hand up anywhere? No?
Probably
Councillor?
Echoing what you've said there, Councillor Cook and Councillor Walker. I'm quite new to politics, become elected in September, and felt that I wanted to do the best for where I live, Easterside, and the best for the town. And every person I've met so far, I do feel they want the same thing. I don't believe anybody gets in here for the pay, because the pay's not that much, is it? I think everybody's got a desire and a drive to make the town better. But I've quickly noticed there becomes a mistrust. Do you see the divide in the room? Like there's a tends to be a natural distrust, and I think we need to kind of stop judging each other's motives. And so I kind of see the best in people. I see accusations against me because I'm part of an independent party. No, I'm not part of an independent party. I'm independent. I consider this my team. And I support them. I do support the mayor. I believe he supports me. And I think he does great for the town. I think he does a good job. But what we can do is point to decisions and believe he's doing that and question his motives. And I think we need to get better at just not questioning each other's motives and think they're doing it for the wrong thing. We all are in this for the good of the town. So I agree with what you said, Chris. It's not about talking, it's about how do we pull together for the better of the town.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Halawi.
Thank you, Chair. The angle I'd like to pick up on is the mechanisms we have within our groups, scrutiny panels, groups and committees for working clearly together. I think we're not working clearly and transparently together. I think there's a lack of clarity of thought, and sometimes that's due to new councillors not understanding the mechanisms and working of panels such as scrutiny. They don't understand, and some other people don't, the correct processes and correct political thinking when they challenge people from the opposition. So I'll just give you two examples from the debates and questions scrutiny panels that I've observed in other such meetings. So, in scrutiny panels, the object of the meeting is to scrutinise the work, the procedures, whatever's going on. Some people don't seem to understand the purpose of scrutiny. So when I go to a scrutiny panel, fully prepared, having read all the papers and documents for hours before, sorted out my questions, made sure they're relevant, checked them out, I go to the panel, I'm told, you're asking too many questions, Councillor Halawi. I might let you ask another one. And you can't let me ask another question in scrutiny panel. It's my prerogative, it's my entitlement. I'm trying to investigate and get to the depths of what is the issue, whatever it is that we're trying to look at. Sometimes, on another note, people misunderstand the notion and description of political. So if you ask a question such as there's a lack of investment and the economic processes are stalled because of it, I get told you can't talk about party politics. Lack of investment is a political statement, but it's not a party political statement. I'm not saying the Tory party are not investing properly in the NHS and education, etc. I'd love to say that, but I'm not allowed to, so I can't say that. I understand the difference between the way I formulate my questions and statement, yet repeatedly I feel pulled up, not able to scrutinise, not able to investigate, and then such words with regard to respect. We've heard tonight, people are being accused of nagging, of niggling, of petty sniping. We are not. I really resent that people describe colleagues as using that form of vocabulary, which demonstrates the lack of respect that people have for each other. So I would really urge us all not to be so patronising and deprecating of other people's efforts to do their very best for the people of the town. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Arundel. Once, first.
Thank you, Chair. It's my experience that scrutiny panels and licensing committees and such like, politics don't come into it, neither do personalities. It's this venue. This is the venue where all the animosity carried on. And it's a shame, really, because we're all here for the same purpose. And it doesn't help things when we're all being asked to work together to solve this situation, when somebody has a go at a situation where people are elected to chairs of committees and whatever because they're inexperienced and this, that and the other. It's exactly the same thing it did years and years and years under that political party. But to come here and go on about that, it's not constructive. We should be here finding a way forward together. As I said, scrutiny panels, licensing committee, everybody from wherever their political background is, they get on and we get the job done. It's this venue and it needs to be stopped. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Anybody else? Councillor? Councillor Hubbard?
Thanks, Chair. Thank you. Just to pick up on some of the points that's already been made, and Councillor Arundel's totally correct about inexperienced councillors and attacking them. I remember when the Mayor first started, him himself being inexperienced, as he openly admits. Sorry then, thank you. So the Mayor offered everyone to go on his executive to put the names forward. He opened the door to Labour, and I don't think one Labour member actually put the name forward to actually take that invite up. And I know the Mayor would have welcomed with open arms that experience, because there's experienced councillors on the Labour bench, and they have some really good ideas, but that was never forthcoming. The door was slammed in his face. We've been told that there's been no challenge by calling by Labour. The mechanisms are there, so why haven't you done? If there's issues that the Mayor or the Executive and decisions that they've made, why not do a calling? There's the mechanism.
Thank you, Councillor. Right, anybody else?
I'm still here, Chair. I'm still talking.
Sorry?
I'm sorry, did you fall asleep there, Chair?
I thought you finished.
I'll try and be a bit more. I'll try and be a bit more exciting. I'm sorry about that. So we'll just try to bring a bit more context to this debate, especially when we go on about the spending of money and the waste. I mean, I've been here when there's been 3 qualified audit accounts in succession. That's never been known to a council before. Rare and unique, and it's not on a positive side, as Councillor Walker will be able to tell you that. When a council's failing, it leads to poor decisions. One such being the 5 acres of land just outside this very building that was sold for £1.20, 20 pence, or just over an acre of land. Sold to a developer, priced and sold as agricultural land and not as prime commercial land. Imagine this Mayor selling 5 acres of land for £1.20. Imagine the uproar and the howls of protest at such a decision. Yet this happened when Labour was in charge, and not a member was ahead. We keep going on about waste of money. We see Acklam Hall, a Grade 1 listed building, and 20 acres of land sold for £600,000. Now that sounds a lot of money. I went on the housing website today, and one house alone, out of the many that's there, has recently sold for £350,000. Now imagine the criticism this Mayor would have been met with had he agreed to support that transaction. We've had the TAD Centre, the Craft Centre. These have been sold or leased both to a former Mayor's election agent. Imagine the hoo-ha and the cries to resign if this Mayor had done the same thing. Yet we never heard one peep from Labour. Imagine if this Mayor had backed the officers' plans to knock down huge swathes of houses in Gresham, Groville, Winniebanks and St Hilda's, which has virtually been obliterated off the face of the earth, costing millions of pounds, and in the process forcing pensioners from their homes when compulsory purchase orders were served on them. Lives destroyed, council finances left in tatters, millions of pounds lost in council receipts, which we still haven't recovered from. Imagine if Mr. Preston had actually done that. The council has made mistakes from 2019 onwards, and it will go on making mistakes, there's no doubt about that. But please, when we put things into context of what Mr. Preston's administration has done and what's gone on before, I think everyone will see that the Mayor's doing a very good job. Thank you.
Councillor Saunders.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Chair. Yeah. I'd just like, without attacking everybody, we're on the verge of it, and I was concerned about that, the monitor officer, at the meeting that the leaders had. And I just want to say something about this. It's acceptance. Yourselves have never accepted the elections, the results of the elections in 2019. You've never accepted it. You've never accepted the mayor. And Councillor Story, you're a professional politician, I get that. But will you change your record and stop asking the mayor to step down and resign? Accept the vote. If the mayor wants to vote, wants to stand next year, and the people vote him in, accept it, and work with him. That's the way this council will progress. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Anybody else? Councillor Rooney.
Right. Thank you, Chair. At the beginning of the meeting, I think the Chair reminded us all we were here to discuss the report. We've heard a lot of comments that are outside of that. So I'd just like to bring it back to the report.
Thank you, Councillor.
The report itself is damning. It's shocking. In the executive summary, the points that are made are how we manage risk, what decisions are supported by evidence, allowing for challenge and transparency, and how officers and members discharge responsibilities. And I think we can all agree that those are principles that we should all sign up to. The main findings of the report can be broken down into areas of significant risk and value for money. In relation to significant risk, the auditors found that there are several incidences where the council entered into transactions without following normal procurement rules. And we've heard the examples: BOHO-X, purchase of COVID-19 tests, and the engagement of the advisor to the mayor, which was also listed as an unlawful action. So that fell into two categories. All of these examples lie fairly and squarely with the Mayor of Middlesbrough. Within the report, at page 19, the auditors state there's a risk that they have not identified all such incidences where decisions may have been taken outside of the authority's practice. Basically saying that this issue goes deeper, and as more evidence may come to light of further breaches, and the council has been challenged with identifying such breaches. The auditors further state that the involvement of the executive has strayed into operational matters on multiple occasions, and that's on page 64 of the report. This is a suggestion of a worrying culture, and it has to be examined in detail. Tonight is an opportunity to do that. On value for money, another area of concern is the relationship between the senior officers and elected members, with a pervasive lack of trust having a significant impact on the governance of the council. These are all quotes from the report. In addition, that the relationships have deteriorated to a point at which the council will not be able to remedy it on its own. And there have been a number of statements around here today about working together, and I think we're all wanting to sign up to that at some point and some process, but it's been recognised we cannot do this on our own. We will need some intervention, and we will need some support to do that. Completeness of members' declarations of interest. It's a criminal offence to fail to declare interests. The Mayor has consistently failed to declare his full interest in Middlesbrough Council. He claims he's a businessman and a property developer, yet time and again he's failed to declare his property interests when taking part in discussions and making decisions on matters.
Councillor, I've got to interrupt you. That's a question that's coming up with the corporate affairs.
Right, well, okay, I'll leave that then. At Corporate Affairs, we have asked for and been assured that the background information to this report will be made available. However, through the Chair, I am requesting that the monitoring officer with her team produce a report that does two things. One is to provide the full information alluded to in the report, in particular the evidence that has led to the statement of a pervasive lack of trust and overreach of members. The second is a mirroring of the work that we will see come forward from the work of SIPFA. and that this report is made available to all members, not just select ones, and not just members of the Corporate Affairs and Audit Committee, which is an important committee. It's a committee of the Council. It has the ability to take decisions on behalf of the Council, but it has only 7 members. And not everybody reads the reports, and not everybody reads the minutes, and not everybody attends that meeting, which is why it's got to come back to here, for everybody to hear and understand. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Do you want us to respond to that? Okay. Right. All right. Okay. Anybody else got their hands up? I can see you, Councillor Mattei, but we're trying to do everybody who wants to ask one question. We'll do that first, then we'll go on to the second round. Councillor Rathmell. No.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, the meeting started off interesting, and I think it's spiralled, and anybody watching it can see why people aren't working together. I mean, there's been a lot of criticism of non-acceptance of past failings and lots of criticism of failings that aren't being accepted now. The reality is, some of the failings listed in that report aren't a new phenomenon. The acceptance of that is wondering why it's still going on. It's easy to blame officers, it's easy to blame a novice new exec. That's fine, but that's not correct, because there are enough members here that should pack out every single members briefing or training session when it comes to your rights and responsibilities, your training when it comes to scrutiny, challenge, whether it comes to improving the town, antisocial behaviour, when the police give briefings. And sadly, far too often, those important briefings where people can pick up the most information, you're lucky if you get 7 to 12 members, and that's on a good turnout. So, I mean, it's never going to improve. We've had them where we've been to Cleveland Police Headquarters, and I don't know if it's because members don't like going somewhere else and they prefer it here, but you go there, and I think there was 4 of us that night. There was almost as many police officers. I don't know if they knew I was going, but hey, there was a lot of them. But the reality is, a lot of these things in the audit report aren't a new phenomenon. We have got a problem. We've got a breakdown in relationships between officers and members. But again, it's not a new phenomenon. I think quite a few independents had a breakdown in relationships with the very same officers. So there's got to be something within that formula that needs fixing. We get told that we need to be able to challenge, we need to be able to ask things and get answers, and I agree. But again, previously, we've had meetings, we've had call-ins, we've had extraordinary meetings, and the relevant people under previous administrations haven't actually bothered to turn up to those meetings, so the chair has took the delegated decision to close down those meetings on the basis they're not there to respond. Now, one thing I will say about this mayor, he does like a camera, and he has actually turned up to respond tonight. You might not get the response you like, you might not get a full response, might get the brush off, or you may feel like you have. But until you actually attend any kind of training and take it on board and inquire as to how you can make effective challenge and ask questions, you ain't going to be able to do anything. You're still all going to be sat there from both sides, like lemmings, in another 12 months' time, wondering, well, how do I challenge this? How do I ask a question? So rather than everybody doing the finger pointing and the blame game, knuckle down, do the training. There's some new members that have only been here a few months, and they go to everything. They go to the opening of an envelope because, like when I started back in 2015, if you don't turn up, you don't know the game's played. You don't open a board game, do you? Open a pack of cards and start playing poker with people when you've never played the game before. You read the rules, you look at it, and that is our biggest problem. Too many councillors. Criticisms were wrong, and I disagree with the mayor's criticism, but I think he knows that, where he referred to lazy, selfish councillors being the fault of it, because I think that can go for a lot of councillors across the board, and it sounds good on paper, but it's exec members as well for not undertaking that sort of training and brushing it off as it's not valuable. Now, some of it, it's like everything in life. Some of the training, you'll go to 1 or 2, you'll realise, actually, I'm not picking up anything. And it's because budgets have been cut back and officers are having to deliver it on a shoestring. If that isn't working, get together, tell the relevant officer, it's not working, we need to find a solution. People aren't absorbing the information. But I'm not hearing that from anybody apart from we're getting shut down, we're getting ignored. I agree, it does happen, it will happen, it's always happened. And the only way you can change that is by learning how to play the game and change that for yourselves instead of blaming everyone else for not doing your homework for you and learning how to do it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Right, anybody else? Any more questions? You want it?
She's spoken once already.
What?
She's spoken once already.
Yeah, you're only allowed to speak once, Councillor, and you've spoken once already. No, they've only spoken once. I've got all the names written down there. Everybody that wants to speak has spoken once. I'm sorry.
I just want to contradict something that's just been said, which isn't true.
No, I'm sorry. You've had your chance.
Okay, fine.
Right.
Fine. I'll send it in an email instead.
Yeah, will you? You're right. Right, okay. Well, yeah. Well, you would if it was a motion, but it's not really a motion. So it's not really a motion that you propose. It's an extraordinary meeting. So I don't think you can. No, we've been looking tonight. It's not there. So they tell me. Right, I'll just say one thing before we close, because I haven't had my chance to speak. When I started here some 16 years ago as a councillor, I was treated very, very badly by the Labour Party. They didn't want to talk to me, didn't want to sit next to me. But over the years, that's slowly changed. And what I can say now is that the group you've got here are the best group I've ever seen, right? And I work with you. I work with all of you. I'll work with anybody. If it's for the good of the council. I mean, I even talked to Councillor Rooney, so, you know. So it can be done. And what we have to do, we have to look at, what Councillor Rathmore, he's gone. What we have to do, we have to look at working together. We've got some petty politics and we've just got to get on with it and try and pull us round from the brink of whatever we're falling into. Right, I've had my say. Thank you very much. Okay, with that, we'll close the meeting. Thank you very much for your attendance. Would everybody please remember to go out the front door?